Cyberpunk 2077 is having a ton of issues on the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, and this has a lot of people thinking about the next generation games and whether they should be released on the last generation consoles, especially games like Halo Infinite. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Thank you for stopping by. If you're new here and you enjoy what you see throughout this video, hey, maybe consider subscribing to help this channel grow, help grow this community so we can continue to have great conversations in the comments below. But for now, let's jump into this. So Cyberpunk 2077, one of the most anticipated games in recent memory, has finally launched. Overall, the reviews and sentiment towards Cyberpunk 2077 so far has been that it is a great game in terms of story, in terms of gameplay, but it is just a buggy mess and obviously wasn't ready for release, but they just didn't want to delay it again because as we remember, there were tons of delays for this game leading up to its official launch back on December 10th. Now, when looking at the game on the PS4 and the Xbox One, this is where there is a big issue. This is where it's performing the worst. And if we look here at this article from Digital Foundry, we can see that there are points in the game where it's running at like 15 frames per second. And this has a lot to do when you're driving through Night City. Lots of pop-in, lots of resolution issues dropping down to 720p, 900p, and then 15 frames per second, which is just almost unplayable when you're thinking about playing these games on the Xbox One or the PS4. Now, obviously, CD Projekt Red is working on bug patches, working on trying to get these versions of the game up to a playable and enjoyable state. But this is going to take some time. They're going to be working really hard at it. So if you picked it up on the PS4 or the Xbox One, you're planning on playing on it there. I mean, I haven't played it on those consoles, but I would suggest waiting. But if you are playing it on the PS4 or the Xbox One, let me know in the comments below what your experience has been so far. Now, because of these bugs and the actual state of the game on the PS4 and the Xbox One has a lot of people calling into question whether next generation games should be released on the last generation console, specifically a game like Halo Infinite that is coming out in the holiday of 2021. Should that be released only on the Xbox Series X, or should it also still be released on the Xbox One? Now, me selfishly, I would rather them just put all of their work and effort into making the best possible looking and running game on the Xbox Series X and just forget about the Xbox One. But understandably, it makes complete sense why they want to do that with the install base of the Xbox One with lower end GPU since it's coming out on PC as well. And they can't just forget about those people because that is a large amount of the market. So we look at Cyberpunk 2077 as an example. They already made back its development and marketing costs from pre-orders alone. So this is right when it's released. They have made back all of their money on all of that time and effort and resources that they put into making the game. And this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone because this was such a hyped up game. They had over 8 million pre-orders, and according to CD Projekt Red, 74% of those pre-orders were digital distribution. So this can be spread out between PC and console, but probably a majority of that is PC, and 26% is physical distribution. And you can pretty much bet that the 26% are last generation PS4 and Xbox One physical editions of the game. So I mean, that's obviously the reason why companies want to release these games on last generation hardware, because the install base is so high. If you can pay off the game with pre-orders, you just have the ability to make money going forward, even though there's still going to be costs to updating and patching the game. But once they update and patch the game, once they release the next generation versions of this game, they're going to sell those like crazy too. And this game is going to be just extremely profitable because they are already not even working from a deficit from the fact that they have made back all of their money. So as a business, it obviously just makes complete sense to release games on the last generation hardware. Now, when it comes to Halo Infinite, this is a article from Windows Central saying that Cyberpunk 2077 is proof Halo Infinite should skip the Xbox One, especially because now it has been delayed to be coming out in the holiday of 2021. So an entire year later, there'll be a much bigger install base for the Xbox Series X and S. And that would give them a better opportunity to kind of forget about the Xbox One, but they're not going to do that. Now, obviously, Halo Infinite has had a lot of scrutiny with the way that it looks. And a lot of people are saying that the way that it looks, the way that it's going to run is going to be hindered because it is releasing on the last generation console. This has a lot of people worried that Halo Infinite is going to continue to be held back by the Xbox One. It's not going to look as good as it could be. It's not going to look like a true next generation console. But we start to look at things like this in the latest Halo Waypoint, where they give us an update on the game, and the graphics from these screenshots look great. Now, these are still shots. They're not running. We don't know what the frame rate is. We don't know what the full resolution is going to be with a high frame rate, but these shots look really, really good. And the main thing that holds games back from being able to run run on multiple platforms, from low-end GPUs to the Xbox One to the Xbox Series X, and look great on every single one, is resources, time, and the amount of effort developers put into getting those games to look good. I know it's very hard. Obviously, I'm not a developer, so I don't know the in and outs of it, but it's obviously a lot of effort to get these games to run great on both the Xbox One and the Xbox Series X. And I think with the delay of Halo Infinite, one of the major reasons they're giving it that entire extra year is because they have to make it run well on the Xbox One. And when they make it run well on the Xbox One, they'll also make it run well on lower end PC GPUs, which just opens up this game to way more people. And this is very important because Halo Infinite is going to be a free to play game when it comes to multiplayer. So there is going to be people who are playing this across a variety of different specs, and there's going to be tons of people just playing it on their Xbox One, Xbox One S, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series X. So it's going to need to be compatible for everything. It's going to need to run well on everything because it is a first person shooter. You need to have steady frame rates when you're playing online. It needs to be smooth. So this article also goes into it being new gen or bust. They want to have a massive community, especially for a free to play game. And if you're cutting out an entire Xbox One install base, which in a year from now, don't kid yourselves, there will still be a massive amount of people playing on the Xbox One, and there'll still be a massive amount of people playing on the Xbox One for a couple of years here. So they don't want to cut that out. They want to make sure that the online community, especially if it's going to have a battle royale mode, I know that's been a rumor that's been shut down, but we'll have to wait and see. It's going to have massive multiplayer, going to have party games, going to have all the stuff that Halo has. You want to be able to have the best and biggest community as possible. And if you were to cut out the Xbox One, you're going to really dwindle down that community, because you're not only cutting out the Xbox One, you're also going to be cutting out probably lower end GPUs. But when it comes down to it, going into next year, going into Halo Infinite, this entire extra year of development time, I think, is going to play dividends into allowing these developers to have more time to make sure that this game functions properly across all generations of consoles, across the generations of GPUs that it is going to support for PC, and then hopefully on the Xbox Series X. And if you have like a 3070 or 3080 or any of the 30 series GPUs on your PC, the game is going to look the best. It's going to be in a high resolution with really good textures, with global illumination and all that great stuff that makes games look good, and have a really solid, steady, high frame rate, especially when you're playing multiplayer. So yeah, I think companies aren't looking at Cyberpunk 2077 not running well on the Xbox One and the PS4 as a reason not to have games on those consoles. I think they're looking at the fact that they made back all of their money from pre-orders on day one as a reason to have those games on those last generation consoles. And I think we're going to see that for the next couple of years, and it's just going to be up to the devs and their resources and time that they have in order to make games to make them run well on those consoles. Anyways, guys, that's it for me. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Do you think that developers should now just be completely cutting off the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 specifically because of how Cyberpunk 2077 is running? Do you think Halo Infinite should just forget about the Xbox One and make sure that it only runs really, really well on the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S and higher end GPUs? I would love to hear your thoughts about all this in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. If you're new here and you enjoy what you see throughout this video, hey, maybe consider subscribing to help this channel grow, help grow this community. I would really appreciate it. But anyways, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for all your support, and I will catch you in the next video.